outputs and inputs, take video out of there on a BNC and take audio out on an RCA phono, and plugging it into the connector of the 8mm. I have two 8mm cameras, and making an 8mm copy of the program that's just been laid down. The video, the audio, the voice, the music, and the graphics. That way I could have my archives on 8mm, and you see 8mm is only about this big. That's about the size of an 8mm. And whereas a VHS is about that big. So, yeah, and Frankel thinks we can work that out. So I'm going to experiment with that. The thing that stopped me from doing it was that the power adapter that goes in the back of this TV camera. I had two cameras and I had two power adapters, and one of them got lost either at White Plains Public Access or at TCI, and we can't seem to locate it. So I called Canon, the nice man there, Walter Lettau, L-E-T-T-A-U, the man who helped me with my first Canon recorder and my first Canon copier and my second Canon copier. And I asked him where I would go in Canon to buy one of these. And he says, well, he says, stay where you are and I'll call you. He called me up and he says, I found one. He says, we use this camera for training. We don't need this power adapter. It's a little bit used. He says, I'm going to send it to you free of charge. Hooray for Canon USA! Thank you very much, Walter Lettau. And the last thing I have to tell you about is Amicone. Philip Amicone is the White Plains Building Commissioner and the former mayor of White Plains. Alfred Del Vecchio in the White Plains Building Department. When I was at the Appellate Division Tuesday, March the 14th, I asked if any decision had been made on my motion to reschedule my oral argument. It was the fault of the Appellate Division that I never got any notice of my oral argument. And I went down there that day. I just happened to be down there in the afternoon perfecting the Silverman appeal when they told me I had an oral argument that's scheduled that morning. I never knew about it. Of course, I would never miss an oral argument. And you know what I've said about that. You know how it cost me something like, what, $500 or was it $1,000? And that I'd waited a year and a half for an oral argument. I wasn't about to miss it. But they're merciless. They're merciless. Now this is entirely wrong. Listen to it. Motion by the appellant to reschedule oral argument of an appeal from an order of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, dated August 19, 1993, upon the papers submitted in support of the motion, and no papers having been submitted in opposition or relation thereto. No papers submitted in opposition. Ordered that the motion is denied. They are denying me my oral argument. Now that is just plain crooked. That's the Appellate Division, 2nd Department in Brooklyn. And so I am getting out this protest to everybody, Judge Judith Kay, and Judge Joseph J. Trafficani, Judge Elio Malonis, Gerald Stern, the Commission on Judicial Conduct, Judge Angelo Ingracia, Gary Casella, Judges Thompson, Lawrence, Hart, and Goldstein, who are the ones who denied this, and Judges Garage. This lousy decision, and Robert Pagano, the lawyer for them. Why does the White Plains, City of White Plains, hire a lawyer in Manhattan when they've got their own corporation counsel that we're paying for? To Philip Amicone, the former mayor, Alfred Del Vecchio, and to Glendora's TV audience, to all of you, please see the enclosed decision of Judges Thompson, Lawrence, Hart, and Goldstein. It is not fair. They are not doing their job. It is the court's fault that Glendora was not notified of her oral argument. Please see all the reasons Glendora gave in her motion for oral argument, and please read the oral argument, both of which you have read, or it's been read to you. That's terrible. Happened the last 7 days on the lawbreakers, tortfeasors, their lying liars, and the inept courts. Again, I urge you to call 422-1200, Center for Judicial Accountability, who is has a good movement going to stop these inept judges and judges who are dishonest and judges who are not able. Okay, so we're going to have our jokes, we'll sing our hymn, and then we will have peace, we hope, until next week at this time. Dottie said that she and her boyfriend have a strange and wonderful relationship. She says he's strange and I'm wonderful. And Oliver is very active in church. His mother-in-law says yes, he squirms, he wiggles, and he fidgets. And Harold said, I just got back from a pleasure trip, and Ed says, wonderful, where'd you go? And Harold says, I took my mother-in-law to the airport. And now, here's a hymn that you've heard on Chat with Glendora practically every week, and it's God of our fathers, whose almighty hand leads forth in beauty all the starry band of shining worlds in splendor through the sky. Our grateful song before thy throne arise. p.m. on Channel 25, Cablevision, Nassau County. And I'm going to press the smart button here, turn up the volume so you can hear the calls.
Hello, Glendora. How you doing? First time I'm watching the show. I find it somewhat interesting. But can you do me a favor? The American flag is hanging backwards behind you. Can you please change that? Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, we'll certainly change it. Why is it hanging backwards? Okay. All right. We'll change the nails on the wall. And now we will fade. Oh, we got to tell you a joke. Dorothy says, my son has been appointed general manager of the company. And Ann says, congratulations. And Dorothy says, yeah, but he started out as the president. She's walking all over the lawn in roller skates.
How you doing?
What's up?
Time is now 4 o'clock.
That's Big Mouth James Walsh. And he's walking all over the lawn in roller skates. That's good. It's good for the lawn. Okay, the time is 4:17 p.m. and this is March the 19th, 1995, Sunday.
What?
I just hold the wall then.
Look away, that's easy.
The night news.
Come on! Sit! Go away. Please. You don't believe me. Why you keep on giving it to me? Because I take it. Then give it to me.
Hit the bush. Icicle.
What? Yeah, right. You're looking. Are you Irish?
Want to Chat with Glendora was on TCI at 9 p.m. March the 21st, 1995, the vernal equinox, and also later at 9:30 p.m. Chat with Glendora was on TKR, Rockland County, Northern New Jersey. Press the smart button. That's indistinguishable, and that's not good for your ears.
Glendora! Glendora, I want to touch you and all those funny intimate places.
This is obscene.
God, you're hot.
This is pornographic. Hi there, everybody. How are you today? Just miserable, right? This is Katie Cat. Katie Cat has come to join us. It's not necessarily our company. It's just that Katie Cat just might be hungry and might want to be fed for the 6th time today. Is that right, Katie Cat? Katie Cat. Come here, Katie Cat. Come here. Come here, Katie Cat. Come here, Katie Cat. Come here so the folks can see you. And so she left us. And welcome to a chat with Glendora on what happened on the week, the past 7 days from March the 16th to March the 23rd, 1995, in the year of our Lord. And first we'll start off with jokes. And John said, I used to have difficulty remembering names until I took that terrific Sam Carnegie course. And don't you love it when they present speakers at our luncheon? Our guest needs no introduction. What he really needs is a conclusion. And the best thing to remember when you give a speech, folks, is that the mind cannot absorb more than the seat can endure. And now we'll have to tell you what's going on with Glendora versus Scott Lord. Judge Robert John Hall, Judge Conrad Dubestein, Andrew Maloney, former United States Attorney, Harold Jones, former United States Trustee, Neil Mann, former United States Assistant Trustee, Teresa Kavanaugh, United States Trustee, Joseph Derby, who is a security employee at the Federal Bankruptcy Court, Bravado Road in Westbury, Long Island, and Richard O'Connell, who is a panel trustee on the Scott Lord bankruptcy. Scott Lord, the person who started all this with lying, thieving, and cheating. And the 2 people he committed fraudulent conveyances with, Jan Stahl and Jeffrey Barnes. Well, let's see, we came home from the oral argument in front of the appellate division in Brooklyn. And then we sent a copy of the oral argument to all of the judges involved. That would be Judges Fredman, Gattell, Winter, Jacobs, and Cabranes. And then this week, yesterday and today, we've been working on a Scott Lord mailing. I will show that to you. It is huge. It's going to cost about $50. We're mailing out the log. And we're also mailing out a copy of the oral argument to 32 people, other than those that I just listed to you, the people on the mailing list. Now, here are the copying instructions. And this is the log reduced. It was 28 pages, and it's been reduced. And then it had to be cut and pasted. This whole thing takes about 3 hours. And then the master had to be run off, and the next thing is for this master to go down to Office Max and be copied. Here are the envelopes to 32 people. And then here's the each one gets a copy. This has already been printed. This has already cost $13. each one gets a copy of the oral argument. The oral argument page is reduced so as to save on postage. I'll point out to you in the log, other than all the other things you've heard, is that here's a letter from Thomas Glendora, who is the county executive of Nassau. Mr. Glendora appears to be a very nice man. He has certainly been nice about answering our letters, but nothing ever happens. Scott Lord goes on operating a consumer affairs business with no license in Nassau County out of 17 Center Street in Hempstead, right under the nose of the district court. Mr. Glendora says, Dear Glendora, my office is in receipt of your letter relative to the problem you are reporting in contacting Commissioner James Picken of the Nassau County Office of Consumer Affairs, as well as your concerns about Scott Lord operating the consumer affairs business without a license. I'm happy to hear that you were able to make that contact. Thank you for keeping me informed of this matter. But Mr. Glendora, right under Mr. Picken's nose, Scott Lord is operating a consumer affairs business, a home improvement business, in Nassau County without a license. He is breaking the law. Mr. Glendora is doing nothing about it. Mr. Picken is doing nothing about it. Mr. Dillon is doing nothing about it. This is file 51, Scott Lord, volume 51. The page numbers are up to 5,800, almost 5,900, but it wasn't Scott Lord who went to 6,000 pages first, it was Cablevision. I took two fat files like this. The file drawers can't hold them any longer. And I took two fat files like this, volumes 50 and 49, down to the basement bin. And you know those boxes that copy paper come in? Okay, there are two of these on Scott Lord, I believe. Or is it only one? It's only one, I guess. There's two on Broder, and there's certainly one on Cablevision. What is pending with Glendora versus Scott Lord and that group? We haven't heard anything from the United States Supreme Court for them to take the case and adjudicate it and reverse everything. And we're waiting for a decision from the New York Supreme Court, from Brooklyn, from the Appellate Division. And the judges on that panel were Goldstein, Ritter, Balletta, and Altman. Oral argument was March the 14th. So that's where the thing stands with Scott Lord, and that brings us up to comic relief. Feels great. Ed says, how great? Joseph says, I haven't felt this good since my wife lost the credit cards. And a news columnist syndicated all over the country. He was bragging about his news column, and his mother-in-law says, yes, his column appears in all of the best parakeet cages in America. And Marilyn says that her boyfriend, she's trying to defend her boyfriend to her father, and she says, Daddy, he's just a young man trying to get ahead. And her daddy said, yes, he needs one. And that's all there is on A Chat with Glendora for program 1715, 1,715 programs. The next program will be about Cablevision. Charles Dolan, John Tata, Francis Randolph, William Quinn, William Bell, Mark Luscart, and Joseph Asnara et al. Take care and keep your courage flaming. So, welcome to A Chat with Glendora, and this program we're going to bring you up to date on the law-breaking of Cablevision and its management and its owners and officers. course, the shareholders are the owners, but we don't get any dividends due to the imprudent management and due to paying Kalaji thousands and thousands of dollars for all of these law papers and senseless appearances in court, and for all of the Kalaji lying. But let us start here and tell our jokes, and then we'll go on to Cablevision. The great inventor, he crossed a microwave oven with a TV set, and now he can watch 60 minutes in a quarter of an hour. And why don't they have cars that talk, right? And they have calculators that talk, and they have scales that talk. Why don't they make a washing machine that talks so that it can tell you what it did with the other sock? And IBM and Goodyear, did you hear about that? IBM and Goodyear are going to merge so that they can make a computer that makes snap decisions. So on we go here with Glendora versus the Cablevision lawbreakers. We will talk to you first about lawsuit 1. Here is a letter to Judge Bryant from Glendora's amicus curiae, Brian Grafman. This kid is a genius. Caro and Grafman, 1370 Avenue of the Americas, 32nd floor, New York, New York, 10019. Telephone 212-307-0888. Honorable Charles L. Bryant, United States District Judge, United States Courthouse, 101 East Post Road, room 31. That's just 2 blocks from me. White Plains, New York, 10601, regarding Glendora versus Cablevision et al., index number 93 Civ 8344 CLB. And this is the second time it's been in that court. Because remember, I appealed Judge Bryant's dismissal of my complaint against Cablevision. I won the appeal. The United States Court of Appeals vacated Judge Bryant's decision and remanded the case. Dear Judge Bryant, as the court is aware, this firm, along with Robert T. Perry, Esquire, represents amicus curiae, Media Access New York, Manny, in the instant action. Please consider this letter as a response to the motion of Cablevision to dismiss Glendora's complaint. Well, that's Glendora's complaint, the first one of December the 6th, 1993, a long time ago. As Glendora has since filed an amended complaint and has been granted leave by the court to file a second amended complaint, we believe that this motion is premature and need not be responded to. No doubt about it. Nevertheless, to the extent that Cablevision may request that its motion apply to either of Glendora's amended complaints, we believe that the motion lacks merit for the reasons stated in Manny's motion to leave to participate as amicus curiae, and as stated in the papers submitted by Manny to the Second Circuit in Glendora's appeal. You remember all of those papers. You've heard them all. Which Your Honor has a copy of, as Glendora has included it as an exhibit to her amended complaint on remand. Respectfully yours, Brian Grafman. Copy to Glendora Plaintiff Pro Se, J. Allison Strickland, Esquire, Satterley, Stevens, Burke, and Burke for defendants, Robert T. Perry, Esquire, co-counsel for amicus, and certainly that should go to Kalaji, Robert Kalaji. As I say, this Brian Grafman, the kid is a genius. He's a lot smarter than Kalaji. As a lawyer, he's a lot smarter than Kalaji. You and I are pro se. What do we know? But I think we know good lawyers from bad lawyers. It's this week's log, folks, the week of March the 20th. Spring, the vernal equinox, when the days are the equal length of the nights. The vernal equinox, how beautiful it's been, how great it is to have spring, although we had one wonderful, pleasant letter. we got another one of these stupid letters from Sadly Stevens, Burke and Burke, 230 Park Avenue, New York, New York, 10169. Now, do you notice that letter? Okay. Tell me, who wrote it? See that? Do you see a signature anywhere? So, I wrote. And I said, who wrote this letter? Why do you cover up? Why do you run scared? Let me read you the letter. We will accept service of the amended complaint as well as any other papers you wish to serve on behalf of Cablevision Systems Corporation, Cablevision, quote unquote, and any and all directors, officers, and employees of Cablevision named as defendants in the above action. You may spare yourself the expense of serving such defendant individually. So Glendora says, who wrote this letter? Why do you cover up? Why do you run scared? What is your reason for not wanting the defendants to see your papers? You don't want them to know how bad your work is? What is the reason you don't want your clients to see my papers? Is it because I show them how bad your papers are? There is no plaintiff pro se Glendora blank. That name is not on a caption anywhere. Why are you unable to read a caption? You show the world the worst. Why don't you make a straightforward living? Well, I want the defendants to know the chaos their law-breaking has caused this country and state. I want them to know how they imprudently squander our stockholders' money on your paid lies. Is this the type of money on which you are going to send your kids to college? Cablevision pays no dividends. Why? Guess. The second amended complaint went out to you today and to the defendants. Yours in truth, Glendora. This is the daily log. This goes to 3 people. Last week's log went out yesterday, and it goes to 3 people: Irvin Polinsky of Cablevision, and Charles Forma, pro forma of Cablevision. None of these people, whoever kept Cablevision from breaking a law, 2 of them, 3 of them, 4, 5, 6, when they took my program off of TV in Nassau County. And to Gilman Burke, who is, I guess, the managing partner of Sadly Stevens, Burke and Burke. I'm going to enclose this article from years ago. Let's see, August the 18th, 1992. In the New York Law Journal, federal judges reporting greatest and least total investments. And we have here Robert Patterson, and Robert Sweet, and Milton Pollock, and William Connor, and William Timbers. Now, I've never met those judges here in 1995, have we? We haven't met those judges. Gerard L. Cattell, we met him, unfortunately. Mary Johnson Lowe, John Sprizzo, Thomas J. Meskill, Frank X. Altamart, Altamari, excuse me, Richard J. Cardamone, Wilfred Feinberg, Amalia L. Kearse, J. Edward Lombard, J. Daniel Mahoney. Well, we met him. He messed up the Broderick decision, which should have been reversed, and he affirmed it. Reversed, and he affirmed it. Joseph M. McLaughlin, along with McLaughlin. McLaughlin joined Mahoney on that bad decision, but McLaughlin was on the panel that vacated the Bryant dismissal for Glendora. Thomas J. Meskill, Roger J. Minor, he's one of our judges. He was on the panel with McLaughlin, who vacated the Bryant decision and remanded it. John O. Newman remanded the case. James L. Oakes, Lawrence W. Pierce, George C. Pratt, we know him. What one was he on? He was on Lavelle, Pratt, and Cabranes, who made the wrong decision about the Gannett case, that Gannett was not an antitrust, a monopoly, and we all know that it is, you and I who live here in Westchester. Ellsworth A. Van Grafelen, he was on our panel for the Bryant appeal. That was, the decision was, the order was vacated and remanded. John M. Walker Jr. and Ralph K. Winter Jr., he was on the bad decision about Gattell, where Gattell stood up for Hall and Duberstein, and then Winter, Jacobs, and Cabranes stood up for Gattell. So it was denial of the first, the due process, First, Fifth, and 14th Amendments. Now, here's the Eastern District. We don't have anything to do with them. Okay, so it lists all of their investments, because how they invest is how they're going to vote. How they invest is how they're going to decide the cases. The judge always decides on what is best for the judge. Now also in this week's mailing of March 20th is an old clipping from, the Harris Independent. And it was about Cablevision way back then. And that was in March the 28th, 1991. Glendora, the local cable division interviewer, spoke to the board to complain about the service she's been getting from Cablevision. She said the company is violating its contract with the town by failing to maintain an office in the community as required, and that a letter she has sent to Cablevision to obtain money she had won from them in a lawsuit was returned as undeliverable, address unknown. This was back in the days of Anthony Giordano, Charles Gosselin, and Matthew Waxman. Strati said he had discussed this with the Cable Television Committee, and the latter had decided not to fine Cablevision in response to a complaint by Glendora made at the board's previous meeting that the cable company was violating another provision of his contract by not hiring Harrison residents to work in his studio. Strati said the Cable Committee was looking into the matter. Town Attorney Daniel Pilosino said another of the points raised by Glendora about the security deposits required of cable subscribers and where they were would be discussed at the next town board meeting by Tom Ford, chairman of the Cable Committee. Isn't it awful? Isn't it awful that they can't live honestly? These answers did not satisfy Glendora, who told the board Cablevision's general manager, Mike Zimmer, had left the company and no one had been able to contact him, even though the committee had been speaking with him for over a year. In addition, she faulted the company for broadcasting the wrong program that night instead of the one which was supposed to be broadcast. And you shouldn't use the word broadcast because cable companies do not broadcast. Channel 2, 4, 7, 5, 9, and 11 broadcast, but cable companies cablecast. The signal does not broadcast out over the air. The signal goes through a coaxial cable into your home. Blanchard responded by telling Glendora that the town board was not the proper forum for addressing specific complaints about the cable company. You see how Blanchard was covering up for Cablevision all along? But he's gone, thank heavens. Pateri challenged her, how can you criticize the cable committee when you do not attend the committee's hearings? Glendora replied she found no point in attending the hearings because it did not do anything about problems with Cablevision. I have a program on the air and that gives me a right to be heard, she told them. Matthew Russo, a member of the Harrison Volunteer Fire Department, also complained about Cablevision service. He said he had repeatedly called the company and offered to produce a local program by the fire department, disseminating information about what the department is doing as well as information on fire safety. Yet after 3 months he had not been called back. When he spoke to Anthony Giordano, the public access coordinator for the town, he claimed Giordano harangued him about how Giordano was going to change the rules, but did nothing to assist Russo. He stated Mr. Giordano should be working for the town instead of trying to discourage people from producing programs of importance to this community. Russo added his father was formerly a member of the cable committee, but resigned because he saw his fellow members as a bunch of do-nothings. Strati objected to this characterization, saying the committee members are devoting time to working on the decision as to whether to renew the town's contract with Cablevision. You could never find anything more crooked than the members of that cable commission, that committee. And that would be Tom Ford as chairman and all of its members. Deceptive, devious, backbiting. Russo complained nothing was getting done, so Strati suggested Russo, become a member of the cable committee. Russo replied he would be happy to be a member, so the board voted to appoint him. You see all that manipulation? That's typically Harrison politics, typically town board. Okay. I guess we're going backwards here. Well, I think that's sort of an improvement on going frontwards through all of this law breaking of Cablevision. I believe there were other newspaper reports about Cablevision in Harrison and Port Chester by Francis Rogers, who I think is a very good reporter and a good writer. Also, what's going on with Cablevision is all this. You see this? This is the discovery rules. I have to read the federal discovery rules. That's how big they are, how long they are. I also am going to the federal discovery rules. Rule 26 says that you have to get out right away without being asked all of the information that the other side needs for discoverable information. And that would be the names of all of the people who might have information. That would be a copy of or deposition by category and location of any documents, computation of any category of damages. So I've got to get this out to Cablevision, to Charles Dolan and John Tata and all those people. And for inspection and copying under Rule 34, any insurance agreements. So I'll get that out, and they should have got it out to me. Okay, moving along here. We're still in the first pile. And what is this? This is the new Cablevision file. Cablevision is up to 6,652 pages of law breaking. The names of the people that you see on the screen. This is volume 21, and it was started yesterday, the vernal equinox of 1995. This is the file that just closed. You want to know how much time this covers, this big fat file? Volume 20. It only goes from the 1st of March, Ash Wednesday, to yesterday, the vernal equinox. All the Cablevision law breaking. Dolan, Tata, Randolph, Losgarten, Quinn, Bell, Osnara. And where's that little Ginny cat? Didn't you want to come up, Ginny cat? Come on, Ginny cat. Come on. Come on, I'll put you up. Come on, I'll take you by belly. She's all belly, so that's how you have to lift her. Come on, Ginny. See, all you do is lift the belly. That's where the center of gravity is. Take it easy, Jen. You're not going to fall. Okay. Now, so Cablevision 1, there will be a conference tomorrow, March the 24th, with Judge Bryant. And 3 things will be considered: the Cablevision stupid motion to dismiss my complaint going way back to December the 6th, 1993. And Justice Grafman said they should have waited for the amended complaint and tried to dismiss that. The motion before Judge Bryant, which has pretty much been granted, that Grafman and Perry shall intervene as amicus. The motion, my amended complaint. My amended complaint got in Monday. That's a long story too. We spent 2 hours on the telephone talking to Robert Perry in Brooklyn about the amended complaint, and then we spent 6 hours typing it over again. On Sunday night at 10 o'clock we finished. And so I took Franklin out for treats because he'd done all that shorthand and all that typing. And then Monday morning, it took me all Monday morning to finish it and integrate the points that I wanted to make and to get the amended complaint ready for the printers. And then it had to be notarized, and then it had to be folded, stuffed, and sealed. A copy had to be handed in. The original had to go to Judge Bryant, and then it had to be served on Kalaji down in New York, and then it was sent out to all of the defendants: Dolan, Tata, Mark Lusgarten, Francis Randolph, Quinn, Bell, Osnara, out in Woodbury, New York. Certainly covers the New York metropolitan market, doesn't it? The only thing we missed was New Jersey and Connecticut. So that's gone. And I have to read you the amended complaint. Out yesterday. That woman in Hawaii who's a public access producer, Cheryl Monk, and her rights have been violated, so she wanted, she called me, she read about it in the newspaper way out in Hawaii, and so she wanted to on information for me, which is awfully hard for me to do because I can't find the time to get it printed and get it posted. But today I did sneak in the record on appeal for Kofalt Silverman Cablevision, now in the appellate division, and for which I'm composing my appellant's reply brief in refutation of all of Kalaji's lies in his respondent's brief. I told you that Thomas Geiger was dropped from the record, dropped from the action as far as the state action goes, Glendora versus Kofalt Cablevision, that I won that motion before the appellate division. So here's an obituary about Judge Broderick that was in the New York Law Journal. There was one in the New York Times with his picture, I do believe, but we haven't been able to locate it. It should have been around March the 4th on a Saturday. Here's a letter to the editor from Glendora in the Harrison Independent. Dear Mayor Belancha, you never seem to hear my question. Are you going to fine Cablevision for violating the contract that the town ought to be able to send mail to the business office in Harrison and not have it returned to the sender? The answer given at last night's town board meeting that Michael Zimmer will ask the post office to deliver mail to 47 Purdy Street and that a test will be run in the next couple of weeks to see if this is done is not the answer to my question. Are you going to fine Cablevision for violating the contract, as the town attorney said it had been violated? Or are you going to let Cablevision get away with it just as you let Cablevision get away with violating the contract that the studio shall be open noon to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday for so many years? My second question you never seem to hear either. Why doesn't the Cable TV Committee report the results of the survey they spent so much time and talk and money on? They have been a year since last March on this survey, and not any results have been published. We did a survey and had the results published in August. We, Glendora and Franklin. This was written on March the 14th, 1991. Thirdly, you never seem to hear my answer to your question that I will please take these matters to the Cable TV Committee. The answer is no. The Cable TV Committee has no power, no authority, is not able to act on these. The Cable TV Committee is not an arm of the government. The contract says that preference will be given to hiring Harrison people at the Cablevision studio. Not one person who works at Purdy Street is from Harrison. Anthony Giordano lives in Port Chester. Charles Goslin lives in Brewster. Matthew Waxman lives in Scarsdale. Jetta lives in Yonkers. Are you going to enforce a contract on this matter, or are you going to let Cablevision get away with this? The General Obligations Law, New York Statutes, Article 7, Section 103, Paragraph 2 states unequivocally that the subscriber has to be notified of the institution where the money is in trust, of the address of the institution, and of the amount. Would you just please list for us what the Cable TV Committee accomplished in a year? What have they done about the sloppy cable casting of public access on Wednesday nights? What have they done about Cablevision the shows on time in their time period? What have they done about leaving Channel 45 blank in the middle of public access nights for periods of 30 minutes or more? What have they done about not putting up a slate, stay tuned, between shows instead of letting the screen go black and encouraging viewers to switch channels? Even as a cable TV program manager in 1972, I knew enough to do that. Cable TV is supposed to progress, not retrogress. What have they done about stating on Channel 14 that on Channel 45 at the moment are the listings when Channel 45 is blank? What have they done about getting us more public access cable casting time the way the good cable TV companies do, like Manhattan Cable TV and UA Columbia, now TCI? Did the Cable TV Committee catch Cablevision violating the contract by having no business mailing address in Harrison? No. What have they done about getting rid of this third-rate cable company, Cablevision, and getting us a first-rate cable company like Manhattan Cable TV, like UA Columbia Cable TV, now TCI? Did the Cable TV Committee teach Cablevision that the contract says public access will take precedence all the time over leased access? No. You see, this was the crookedness of Charles Blanchard and the Cable TV Commission in Harrison. I got all these things resolved. I did it. The town board didn't. The town supervisor, Charles Blanchard, didn't. Michael Zimmer didn't. I got it resolved by showing out repeatedly the crookedness of this Cablevision operation in Harrison. And then Cablevision got rid of Michael Zimmer, they got rid of Anthony Giordano, they got rid of Charles Goslin, and Matthew Waxman left. All the corruption was cleared out. New people came, a new manager came, Robert Case down in Yonkers, and the first thing that they did was to get my money that was in an undertaking in the Harrison court, which the old management refused to let me have because I was given that as a judgment in the Harrison court by Judge Johnston. So they gave me my money, which was only about $255. See, this is the first fight I had with Cablevision in 1991. They're a bad company. They're really a badly managed company, and they always have been. Anyway, they cleaned it all up, and everything has been sweet as pie. Everything has been exactly the way it should be. It's been legal, and it's been legitimate over in Harrison, Port Chester. I have no more fight with Cablevision in Harrison, Port Chester, nor with Cablevision in Yonkers, nor with Cablevision in Yorktown. And there's another thing here from the Harrison Independent. But that's really enough for today. What I'm looking for is the amended complaint, which I have to, the judges on that ruling to drop Thomas Garger from the action were Lawrence, Santucci, Altman, and Goldstein. This is the first time Santucci ever voted for me. You know, they turned me down the first time. Oh yeah, they turned me down the first time. And I made a motion to re-argue. I said, reconsider this, please, because Kalaji, Strickland, and Cablevision did not give one sensible reason not to drop Thomas Garger from the action, whereas I gave dozens. So this time they granted it for me. Cat activity here. Katie just jumped up onto the desk, and when she saw Ginny, she jumped down. And now that's all you can see is Ginny. Close to the end of this program, and we've got to send you off with some jokes. They should print tax forms on Kleenex. This is IRS time, April. They should. This is March, but coming soon is April. They should print tax forms on Kleenex for those of us who have to pay through the nose. And John developed the upside-down lighthouse. And what was that for, the upside-down lighthouse? That was for submarines. and they'd open a new Disneyland in Tokyo, but the 7 dwarfs would tower over the natives. This is a chat with Glendora. Some of what happened on the 7 days from March the 16th to today, March the 23rd. In the next half hour, we will read you the second amended complaint against Cablevision. Hi there, everybody. How are you today? Just miserable, right? Welcome to a chat with Glendora. Today we're going to discuss in this half hour Cablevision. We have an amended complaint to read to you to go to the Judge Bryant court. This is lawsuit number 1. World of some jokes. Bob was bragging that he used to work for the New York Times, and the woman was very impressed. She said, "Really?" "Yes." And then his mother-in-law says they took his paper route away from him. And Peter said that he worked at Midas Muffler. "Why did you quit?" "I found the work exhausting." And Billy was a specialist in his former job. He worked for the Fisher Nut Company, and it was his job to put the 1 cashew in the can of mixed nuts. And now about Glendora versus Cablevision. Systems Corporation, Charles F. Dolan, William J. Bell, Mark A. Lusgarten, Francis F. Randolph Jr., John Tata, James A. Kofalt, Joseph Aznara, Thomas Garger, and William Quinn. We have for you the amended complaint. These are the affidavits of service. My whole piece. I bought a bag of dried peas, whole peas, and then I soaked them overnight, and now they are cooking. I think they're cooking. Ginny loves peas. She just loves to eat peas. Okay, here it is, as stamped by the court, and the date that it was submitted was March the 20th, 1995. Call it spring. Glendora submits her second amended complaint to Judge Bryant pursuant to Rule 8, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, preliminary statement. This is an action brought under the 1st and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution, Section 611E of the Cable Communications Policy Act of 1984, as amended, 47, Title 47, United States Code, Section 531E, and 42, United States Code, Section 1981 and 1983, for declaratory and injunctive relief and for damages pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 23. This is a class action. Plaintiff Glendora, the host and producer of a weekly series of video programs seen over public access channels of various cable systems in the metropolitan region of New York City, seeks a judgment declaring that defendants' cancellation of her series from the public access channels of the only cable system serving Nassau County, violating, without explanation or notice, abridged her constitutionally guaranteed freedom of speech and press, and violated her statutory right to freedom from cable operator editorial control, enjoining defendants from directly or indirectly exercising editorial control over her public access programming, and awarding her compensatory and punitive damages in the amount of $31 million. This is written by Robert Perry, my amicus curiae. Jurisdiction. This action arises under the 1st and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution, Title 42, United States Code, Section 1981 and 1983. Title 28, the United States Code, Section 2201 and 2202, and Section 611E, Title 47 in the U.S. Code, Section 531E of the Cable Communications Policy Act of 1984, as amended by the Cable Television Consumer Protection Act of 1992. The 1992 Cable Act, Title 47, the United States Code 520, Section 521, et sec, in sequence. This court has jurisdiction over this action pursuant to Title 28, United States Code, Section 1343A4, and Title 28, United States Code, Section 1331, because plaintiff seeks redress for the violation of federal constitutional and civil rights. The court also has jurisdiction over this action pursuant to Section 611E of the 1984 Cable Act, Title 47 of the United States Code, Section 531E. You know what old 531E, that's your friend. No cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public use of channel. This is one of the laws that the Cablevision people, whose names you see on the screen, broke. Plaintiff further invokes this court's pendant jurisdiction over any and all state law claims and causes of action which derive from the same nucleus of operative acts that give rise to the federally based claims and causes of action. Again, this is written by Robert Perry. As to all those laws, you know what the laws are. I've told them to you. Plaintiff Glendora hosts and produces a weekly series of television programs entitled Chat with Glendora that are regularly telecast over the public access channels of cable systems in the metropolitan region of New York City since 1974. You see, I started in public access in 1972. Not that I ever gave up broadcast TV, never. But I decided I'd better get over in cable and see what was going on, because it was high in the sky, you know, cable was going to do this and that and that. And I'm strictly, up until then, a broadcast person. So I made the plunge, and that was in 1972. So you see, that's 23 years that I've been doing cable television. But always, I'm doing broadcast TV. That's my first love. Cablevision Systems Corporation, Cablevision owns and operates a great many cable television systems around the United States, including the only cable system serving all but one community in Long Island, and that one community is Brookhaven, PCI. Defendant Charles F. Dolan is Cablevision's chairman of the board and chief executive officer. Defendant William J. Bell is Cablevision's vice chairman of the board. Defendant Mark A. Lusgarten is Cablevision's vice chairman of the board. Defendant Francis F. Randolph Jr. is Cablevision's vice chairman of the board. Defendant John Todd is a former partner, Charles F. Dolan, now semi-retired and a $400,000 per annum consultant to Cablevision, and yet he stood there and let these laws be broken. Some consultant. Defendant James A. Colfault was Cablevision's president and chief operating officer, but mysteriously left the company right after Glendora filed her lawsuits. Joseph Osnauer is Cablevision's system manager for Cablevision of Long Island. Thomas Garga is Cablevision's production manager and public access director for Cablevision of Long Island. And if you want your own cable TV program, please call him in Hicksville. William Quinn is Cablevision's vice chairman of the board. Class action. This is a class action brought by plaintiff on her own behalf and on behalf of all other persons similarly situated pursuant to Rule 23 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. The class represented by plaintiff consists of all public access producers who reside within the United States. There are questions of law, in fact, common to the class. The claim of plaintiff will fairly and adequately protect the interests of the class. The prosecution of separate actions by individual members of the plaintiff's class will create a risk of inconsistent or varying adjudications with respect to individual members of the class, which would establish incompatible standards of subconduct for defendants. The defendants have acted on grounds generally applicable to the class, thereby making appropriate final injunctive and declaratory relief with respect to the class as a whole. So that's for all of you public access producer, not only in the state of New York, not only in the state of New Jersey, not only in the state of Connecticut, but for every state in the United States. Questions of law and fact common to the class predominate over any questions affecting only individual members, and a class action is superior to other available methods for the fair and efficient adjudication of the controversy. Factual allegations. Factual background. Again, this was written by Robert T. Perry, Esquire, Glendora's amicus curiae. 18. Cable television is the dominant video medium today. Millions of households are served by cable television in the United States. I believe he got the facts on that. It's 56 million households are served by cable TV. Although there are more than 1,200 cable systems throughout the nation, ownership is increasingly concentrated in the hands of multiple system owners. We call them households are served by cable TV. Although there are the nation, ownership is increasingly concentrated in the hands of multiple system owners. We call them MSOs, multiple system owners, which, as the term suggests, own multiple cable systems. The two largest MSOs collectively own cable systems serving more than 25% of all cable subscribers in the United States. Not only they are a monopoly as far as the franchise area, there's no other cable system, for instance, in your area. There's only one. Not only they are a monopoly that way, but they are a monopoly in that they have 25% of the cable subscribers in the United States. While the 10 largest MSOs collectively own cable systems serving more than 50% of all cable subscribers in the nation. In recent years, many MSOs have gained control of clusters of contiguous cable systems. Well, that's true. TCI is serving White Plains, contiguous to Mamaroneck, contiguous to Larchmont, contiguous to Greenberg, contiguous to Scarsdale, see? Cablevision is now the fourth largest MSO in the cable industry, owning cable systems that collectively serve 2.5 million cable subscribers in 19 states. Through an aggressive campaign of buying and selling cable systems, Cablevision holds all but one of the cable franchises on Long Island, collectively serving more than 600,000 cable subscribers on the island. So that makes the Nassau, I don't know as it does. I was going to say that makes the Nassau system the biggest. I guess it is the biggest because the one that would come close to it is served by two systems in Manhattan. That would be Time Warner Uptown and Time Warner Downtown. Time Warner Uptown is called Paragon. It is the only cable operator franchise to serve communities within Nassau County. About almost every cable operator offers programming to subscribers through coaxial cable or optical fiber placed in conduits under or strung on or strung along public rights-of-way. Because the construction of a cable system typically entails disruption of public rights-of-way, cable operators have traditionally been required to obtain franchises from the appropriate franchising authorities, usually local governments, before they can construct and operate cable system. See Title 47 of the United States Code, Section 541B, 1. While state laws typically prohibit local governments from awarding exclusive cable franchises, cities and towns have rarely awarded multiple cable franchises for the same territory. Out of more than 1,200 systems in the United States, fewer than 50 face direct competition from other cable systems. Cable franchises in the state of New York are awarded by the cities and towns in which cable systems are to be constructed and operated, subject to confirmation by the New York State Commission on Cable Television, CCT. New York Executive Law, Article 28. There are 37 cities and towns in Nassau County. Collectively, they have awarded de facto exclusive franchises to provide cable service in the communities, all of which are presently held by Cablevision. One of the distinctive features of the cable medium is its vast channel capacity. Many cable systems, including Cablevision's system serving Long Island, offer more than 50 channels of television programming. Cable's vast, well, we have 74 here in TCI Westchester. Cable's vast channel capacity prompted the recognition long ago that the cable medium would make it possible for individuals and groups to communicate with each other through their own programming. Beginning in 1970, cities and towns throughout the United States required franchise cable operators to set aside a few of what are called public access channels for presentation of nonprofit programs, and say that again, by individuals and groups who reside in the community or have local sponsorship. Promotion of public access television is not merely a local concern, but a federal and state concern as well. When Congress enacted the 1984 Cable Act, Title 47 of the United States Code, Section 521 et sec., it recognized the importance of public access channels as electronic public forums for local expression by reaffirming that franchising authorities may require franchise cable operators to designate channel capacity for public access television, Title 47 of the United States Code, Section 531A, to ensure diversity of expression over public access channels, Congress also provided, subject to one narrow exception not applicable here, that a cable operator shall not exercise any editorial control over any public access channel. That's good old friend of ours, Title 47 of the United States Code, Section 531E. Congress still provides, however, that a cable operator may use public access capacity for its own programming if and when such channel capacity is not used for public access purposes. Title 47 of the United States Code 531D2. Public access television is also a matter of state concern in the state of New York. In particular, the CCT is required to assure channel availability for local expression and communication services. State Executive Law, Article 28, Section 8, pursuant to this mandate, the CCT, Cable Television Commission, has promulgated certain minimum standards for public access television applicable to every franchise cable system in the state of New York. Article 9, New York Codes, Civil Code, Rules and Regulations, 595-4. These rules provide, in pertinent part, that franchise cable operators having 21 or more channels must delegate at least one full-time channel for public access use. ID at 5, id, is that anything to do with Freud? Id at 595.4B1. And in addition, the public access channel should be operated and administrated by the entity designated by the municipality or until such designation is made by the cable television franchise, providing, however, that the municipality may designate such entity at any time throughout the term of a franchise by a resolution duly adopted by the legislative body thereof. Well, TCI doesn't do this, but Cablevision does. In Yonkers, the public access channel is shared with Playboy. In Yorktown, the public access channel is shared with local government. That's not what PEG says. PEG is public access, educational access, and government access. Now, TCI doesn't do that. The public access channel is 8. Nothing is shared with it. The government channel in White Plains is channel 15. The educational channel in White Plains is channel 16. Nobody shares those channels, and that's what the law says. And Cablevision is thereby breaking more laws, I say. I wonder how I'll handle that. The Cable Television Commission has thus declared the operation and administration of public access channels to be an exclusively governmental function. The Cable Television Commission rules also provide that channel time on public access channels is to be scheduled on a first-come, first-served, non-discriminatory basis and available without charge to the user. It, at 595.4C4 and 595.4C6. Finally, state law provides that no cable television company may prohibit nor limit any program or class or type of program presented over any channel available for public access or educational purposes. State Executive Law, Article 29, Section 829.3. And that's the big law that Cablevision broke on the state level and that I took to the Westchester Supreme Court, New York Supreme Court, and that Judge Silverman ruled that Cablevision had to put Glendora's program back on the TV in Nassau County. There is one public access channel in Nassau, Channel 25, because the municipalities which have awarded cable franchises in that county have yet to designate a public entity to operate and administer Channel 25. This is an important point coming up. Cablevision now remains responsible for that exclusively governmental function. End. Private entity argument. Public access channels play an increasingly important role in the marketplace of ideas, offering countless individuals and groups an opportunity to express themselves and share their views and experience with each other through the cable medium. Each week, thousands of hours of public access programs are produced and televised on public access channels throughout the United States, addressing a wide range of vital local issues. Not only are public access programs regularly televised, but they are regularly watched by cable subscribers, notwithstanding the cable industry's indifference and hostility towards such programming. In short, public access channels have today become the electronic equivalent of such traditional public forums as public streets, sidewalks, and parks. And if you don't think that A Chat with Glendora is a public forum on public access, then you just better hear all of the telephone calls, and I try to play them for you, that come in when the program is on. Now, the facts in Glendora's case. Again, this is written by Robert T. Perry, Esquire, amicus curiae. In her weekly series of public access programs, Glendora regularly covers controversial issues of public importance in the metropolitan New York City region. Many of these issues are ones in which she is personally involved through litigation. While Glendora may focus on her own litigation, this litigation holds questions of general interest worthy of media coverage. You have seen that. It's been in the New York Times, the New York Law Journal, it's been in Newsday, it's been in multi-channel news. It is important to realize that public access is used all over the nation, and that Glendora's case is an important case, and that as the Second Circuit framed it, it is an issue of national significance, because it's every public access producer in America. During 1993, many of Glendora's public access programs concerned a home improvement contractor named Scott Lord, who defrauded Glendora and other consumers, most of whom live in Nassau County. Glendora's weekly public access programs during 1993 not only focus on Lord's fraudulent activities in Nassau County, but continually criticize Nassau County public officials who allowed Lord's fraudulent activities to continue despite many consumer complaints and judgments against him. And these complaints are all a matter of record. Go to the Nassau County Consumer Affairs, go to the District Attorney's Office, go to the Sheriff's Office, go to the Probation Department. You will find the Scott Lord record is there in public. Glendora became so outraged at Nassau County officials' inability or refusal to stop Scott Lord's consumer fraud law and court fraud that she filed a lawsuit against these officials claiming official nonfeasance. For many years, Glendora's weekly series has been televised on cable television systems in Westchester County, 3 of which are owned by Cablevision. From beginning to end of 1993, for example, Glendora's programs on Scott Lord were televised over the public access channels of Cablevision's 3 systems in Westchester County, but they were not censored. Those 3 systems were Yonkers, Yorktown, Harris, and Port Chester. Believing that her public access programs on Scott Lord would be of great interest to residents of Nassau County, naturally, Glendora applied in September 1993 for weekly cable time on Channel 25, the public access channel operated by Cablevision in Nassau County. Glendora's application was made to Defendant Garger, program manager, who promptly arranged for her weekly series to be carried on Channel 25. Glendora's programs were televised over Channel 25 from September 25, 1993 through November 5, 1993, generating many positive responses from subscribers. At about 4:40 p.m. Friday, November 12, 1993, Glendora received a telephone call from Defendant Garger advising her that certain unnamed Cablevision officials had directed him to cancel Glendora's program, effective that very evening, because in their judgment, public access channels such as Channel 25 were not really the place for someone to talk specifically about their individual difficulties with another party, and the subject matter of her program on Scott Lord was not pertinent to the general subscriber population. Glendora demanded but never received a written statement of reasons for the cancellation of her program. And that's so phony. That Channel 25 was not really the place for someone to talk specifically about their individual difficulties with another party. It was about a lawsuit, and if we can't talk about personal lawsuits, then why do we have the O.J. Simpson case all over television all day and all night? And why do we have court TV? All of these things are about personal disputes. On information and belief, Cablevision canceled Glendora's weekly series of public access programs on Channel 25 because Nassau County officials had exerted official pressure on the cable operator to censor her programs. Glendora was reading the public record of Judges Hall and Duberstein, of the bankruptcy court clerks, of the trustees, of the United States Attorney, of the county executive, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, the Office of Consumer Affairs, just reading it as she excavated it, and the record was not good. There are many what are called video vanity programs, quote unquote, that are regularly televised on Channel 25, of which Glendora's A Chat with Glendora is not one. But Cablevision has never sought to cancel such programs on the grounds that the subject matter is not pertinent to the subscriber population. Moreover, Glendora's programs on Scott Lord were indeed pertinent to the subscriber population because they concerned consumer fraud in Nassau County. And Cablevision has since tried to lie about that. And public officials' acquiescence in such fraud. Even though Cablevision canceled Glendora's weekly programs on consumer fraud in Nassau County on Channel 25, ostensibly because such programs were not pertinent to the subscriber population in Nassau County, Cablevision continued to televise those very same programs over public access channels in its 3 systems in Westchester County. Cablevision's cancellation of Glendora's weekly series of public access programs from Channel 25 in Nassau County on November 12, 1993 was an intentional violation of Glendora's rights under federal law, or alternatively in reckless or callous disregard of such rights. And then Mr. Perry goes on for the claims for relief. Well, we're up to page 11 on this, and we're going to have to pause, and we're going to have some jokes. What does your boyfriend do? He's a plant manager for a large industrial firm. Really? Yeah, it's his job to water them. Bill had a very interesting business. He manufactured knee pads for contact lens wearers. There it was, folks, hung up before I got there. And those peas are delicious. You buy dried peas, you let them soak overnight, and you cook them the next morning. You don't cook them very long, less than an hour. And they are delicious that way. What would you call a veterinarian who specializes in elephant skin disease? What would you call a veterinarian who specializes in elephant skin disease? A pachydermatologist. And now, claims for relief. This is the second amended complaint that was submitted to Judge Bryant on Monday, March 20th. It is written by Robert T. Perry, Esquire, amicus curiae. First claim for relief. Glendora reiterates and incorporates by reference each and every allegation in paragraphs 1 through 35 as if fully set forth herein. Insofar as operation and administration of public access channels in Nassau County is an exclusive governmental function, Cablevision's cancellation of Glendora's weekly series from Channel 25 on November 12, 1993 was state action abridging Glendora's freedom of speech and press in violation of the First and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. Second claim for relief. And then you have to say again, Glendora reiterates and incorporates. You have to reiterate the reiteration. Glendora reiterates and incorporates by reference each and every allegation in paragraphs 1 through 35 as if fully set forth here. Insofar as Cablevision's cancellation of Glendora's weekly series of public access programs from Channel 25 on November 12, 1993 was compelled or significantly encouraged by Nassau County officials, the cancellation of the series was state action abridging Glendora's freedom of speech and press in violation of the First and 14th Amendments to the Constitution of the United States. Third claim for relief. Glendora reiterates and incorporates by reference each and every allegation in paragraphs 1 through 35 as if fully set forth herein. Insofar as operation and administration of public access channels in Nassau County is an exclusive governmental function, Cablevision's cancellation of Glendora's weekly series of public access programs from Channel 25 on November 12, 1993 deprived Glendora of her right under Section 611E of the 1984 Cable Act, Title 47 in the United States Code, Section 531E, to present public access programs free from cable operator editorial control, and such deprivation occurred under color of state, triggering Glendora's right to bring an action against Cablevision under Title 47 in the United States Code, Section 1981 and 1983. Fourth claim for relief. Glendora reiterates and incorporates by reference each and every allegation in paragraphs 1 through 35 as if fully set forth herein. Insofar as Cablevision's cancellation of Glendora's weekly series of public access programs from Channel 25 on November 12, 1993 was compelled or significantly encouraged by Nassau County officials, the cancellation of the weekly series deprived Glendora of her right under Section 611E of the 1984 Cable Act, Title 47 United States Code 531E, to present public access programs free of cable operator editorial control. and such deprivation occurred under color of state law, triggering Glendora's right to bring an action against Cablevision under Title 47 in U.S. Code 1981-1983. Those are the big ones, you know. That's the one that takes, see, number one, you're a citizen of the United States, okay? You are protected by the Constitution. If anybody comes along and deprives you of any right that you're guaranteed under the Constitution of the Constitution of the United States, that person is liable to you. And that's what this is saying. Glendora, fifth claim for relief. Glendora reiterates and incorporates by reference each and every allegation in paragraphs 1 through 35 as if fully set forth herein. Cablevision's cancellation of Glendora's weekly series of public access programs from Channel 25 in Nassau County on November 12, 1993 deprived Glendora of her right under under Section 611E of the 1984 Cable Act, Title 47 U.S. Code, Section 531E, to be free from cable operator editorial control. Regardless of whether the cancellation was under color of state law, Glendora may bring an action against Cablevision under Title 47 of the United States Code 531E, and that's our old friend. No cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public usage channel. Sixth claim for relief. Under the doctrine of pendent state jurisdiction and under a common nucleus of operative facts, defendants inflicted severe emotional distress with no physical effect upon Glendora. I am writing this part. Perry stopped writing on the paragraph above. Defendants inflicted upon Glendora severe emotional distress with no physical effect, damaging seriously her career, her ability to get business for Glendora TV ads, her ability to find sponsors for Glendora Cheerful Look at Life, and to distribute the Glendora Happy Book. They also seriously damaged her personal life and her married life. Defendants, their law-breaking took over practically 50% of her life, and she cannot extricate herself from the mess they made. I don't think it's 50% anymore, folks. I think it's 75%. And then the seventh claim for relief, I've read these to you before, is the negligence whereby Dolan, Tata, Lusgarten, Randolph, Quinn, Bell, Osnara handled this whole thing. It was really medieval. And another medieval term for that is Machiavellian. And so that's that one. And then that's the eighth claim of relief is damage to reputation. Ninth claim for relief, Glendora avers, affirms, and repeats every statement in her original complaint of December 6th, and that ends the statement of claims. And then comes the thing about municipal franchise fee that I want Judge Bryant to realize, that every cable operator has to pay the city 3%, 3 cent, I guess it is, fee. So that makes them a under color of state. And my point about public forum, and to show that it's a public forum, all of the telephone calls I got, people have a lot to say. And whatever they say, I try to say on TV for them. And that there's no dispute of material facts. No defendants and no court have ever disputed the facts as Glendora gave them. The Cablevision called her up on November 12th and says that's the end, no more programs. And that conversation was audio taped and it was transcribed and included in the complaint. There isn't any res judicata and there isn't any collateral estoppel. Judge Silverman in New York State Supreme Court did not rule adequately on the issues of freedom of speech and of press. He ruled collateral estoppel on the basis of Judge Bryant's decision, now vacated. The Second Circuit directed that 47 United States Code 531E be considered by the United States District Court, and it cannot be lost by collateral estoppel. Equitable relief of being returned to TV has been granted. That was through the second lawsuit, which is in the state court. You understand now this is the first lawsuit that was in the federal court. The third lawsuit that I brought against Cablevision in federal court was botched by Judge Broderick and is now in the United States Supreme Court. Glendora's program was not censored on any other Cablevision system, just Nassau. It was not censored on Cablevision Yorktown, Cablevision Yonkers, and Cablevision Harrison Port Chester. Glendora wants discovery. Glendora doesn't plea anymore for make goods. The liability, there's no question of liability. If Cablevision did not do it, then who did? There is nobody else to blame. There is nowhere else to put the blame. Simply as the state court found Cablevision guilty of violating state law, Section 829(3), this federal court should find Cablevision guilty of violating federal law, Section 531E. The gag order is res judicata, collateral estoppel. When Robert M. Kalaji asks you for a gag order, it has to be remembered that on or about February the 18th, 1994, this court turned Kalaji's letter into a motion and denied it. It is now the law of the case. No gag order. Defendants have no defense and never will have. And punitive damages, this is new. Cablevision knew what they were doing, either intentionally or with reckless disregard. They knew what they were doing, and they have to pay. They knew they were violating Glendora's rights, and they went ahead and did it anyway. The wrong done Glendora was aggravated by circumstances of malice, fraud, wanton, and wicked conduct on their part. Plaintiff must be solace for mental anguish, laceration of feelings, shame, degradation, and other aggravations of the original wrong. Defendants must be punished for their evil behavior and that of their lawyers and be made an example of. Super is a public policy consideration, punishing the defendants for their outrageous behavior and setting an example for similar wrongdoers. Plaintiff broke the federal laws willfully and maliciously, arrogantly, obstreperously, and defiantly. And this characterizes every cable TV operator. A stop has to be put to it, and this is the court who should do it. Whereas pages 1 through 18 do state where Glendora was injured and who injured her, Glendora pleads this court grant her A, $31 million in punitive damages to be paid Glendora by the defendants, Cablevision Systems Corporation, Charles F. Dolan, William J. Bell, Mark A. Lescarton, Francis F. Randolph, Jr., John Tarter, James A. Colfault, Joseph Osnauer, and William Quinn. B, costs to be taxed against the defendants. C, any other and further relief the court deems fit and proper. White Plains, New York, March the 20th, 1995. It was notarized by Francis Harrison, and it was served by Franklin Buell on the 20th of March. Here are the laws. I like to have the law in front of me. Whatever law I'm talking about, I like to have it right here, copied in front of me. It went to all of the defendants, and it went to Sadly, Stevens, Burke, and Burke, their lawyer, who has given them wrong advice from the beginning and still is giving them wrong advice, and who is soaking up the shareholders' funds. Remember, if you're a Cablevision if you're a shareholder of Cablevision, you don't get any dividends. Here's the affidavit of service. The end. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable unto you, our God, our strength, and our Redeemer. Amen. Choke time. Bill says that he doesn't feel like a success at his job. Why? Well, every time they hire a new employee, they bring him down to look at me to show him the business from the bottom up. And Eddie left the job the same way he arrived. How was that? Fired with enthusiasm. And John has learned to cope with pressure on his job. He doesn't take phone calls from home. Versus Cablevision, the second lawsuit, which was the one in state Supreme Court. On that, we haven't heard from Judge Silverman signing to rob me of my costs the second time. Judge Silverman never awarded me costs, which he should have. And then after the action was out of his court and into the appellate division, Judge Silverman signed an order to show cause and an order to rob me of my costs. At that time, $795. And so that was a mean thing to do. And then that related to one judgment that I got where they sent the sheriff after him in Nassau County, sent the sheriff after Cablevision in Nassau County. That was on the August 22nd one, I think, or August 23rd, around there. And so that order to show cause had only to do with that. So I went out and I got another judgment, and I got another execution in Westchester County and sent Cablevision, sent the sheriff of Westchester County after Cablevision. Their bank account is over in the Bank of New York in Port Chester on Main Street. And it's not under Cablevision, it's under AR Cable Services of New York. So if you ever have to collect money from Cablevision, that's where you have to go. The Bank of New York, Port Chester, under AR Cable Services, Inc. of New York. AR, of course, stands for Adams Russell. They bought the Adams Russell Systems, who are people that I knew way back when I started out in Cablevision, in cable television in 1972. All right, so then Kalaji, greedy, grubby Kalaji, went out and got a order to show cause, and Judge Silverman signed that, which he never should have done, to rob me of my costs a second time. Well, so far, Judge Silverman has not signed the order on that. And he doesn't have, let's see, he has a little time. No, he doesn't. Yes, he does. He has until income tax day, April 15th. You know, a judge in the New York Supreme Court has to decide on a motion within 60 days of the time that is brought before him. And if he doesn't, so that order to show cause, I had to get in my show cause on February 15th. So he's let it sit a month and a week. You get 3 weeks to go on that. And you know what I'm going to do. As soon as I get that by CPLR 5517, I think it is, if he signs it, I will just take it to the appellate division down in Brooklyn, and I will ask, and I will move for them to vacate it. The appellate division ruled in my favor down there, saying that Cablevision could not enjoin me from presenting any bill of costs. Anyway, I really don't have time to collect that $659 now. I think right now I'm going to tell you what's going on, Glendora versus Gannett, Broder, because it's all connected with this. Since Kalaji, I got these two orders to keep me from collecting my costs. I'm making a motion to Judge Burroughs, Charles Devlin, to keep Kalaji from collecting his costs on the Gannett libel suit. That goes way back to 1991, $500 Kalaji wants. And so I'm making a motion to do that. I don't have the papers in front of me, but they are coming along very well. It's sort of a lengthy paper, and I think it's almost ready to go out in the next couple of days. So that's all that's happening on Glendora versus Broder, Gannett. We have the matter in the United States Supreme Court about the Gannett antitrust, Judge Broderick's bad decision. I've asked the United States Supreme Court to reverse that. Now, Cablevision, lawsuit 2, state court, now in the appellate division, 2nd Department, Brooklyn. Where does that go? Well, Kalaji got in his respondent's brief, and it's 35 pages long, and every day I try to answer 5 pages of that, refute his lies on 5 pages, and so far I am up to page 20. I have 30 days to answer it. It would be up on around April 10th, April 13th. And here it is. This is my answer. Already, my answer is 58 pages. And I haven't even finished. I got 15 more pages to go to refute. And so I called the appellate division to ask them about filing an oversized brief, since I'm sort of oversized myself at 165 pounds. And they said you write a letter to the clerk, Martin Brownstein, asking to file an oversized brief, and you submit your draft. And then you'll hear. So I think I have time to do that. I have to show you his paper. It was one of his usual. See, he writes by the volume because he gets paid by the pound, by the hour, and by the page. What he writes is no good at all, but he writes because that's how he gets paid. Well, let me do it this way. This is his part. His is 34 pages long, his so-called brief. Then he has some other statements in there, which are terrible. And you're going to hear all about it when you read my answer, when I read my answer to you. He has an addendum, which is a crazy thing to do, and that's a Judge Broderick decision. He also included an appendix, which he said I didn't put all the things from the county clerk's office into my record on appeal. So I'll have to deal with that. And I just don't know what these are. Oh, these are pages that I answered yesterday that have to go back into the his thing. The first thing I do when I get one of his papers is to saw it down. I'll cut it open, and it takes a full half hour to process one of these. Cut it all open, and get the pages that you can flip them. And then use the back page. He doesn't write on the other side of the page. He murders trees left and right. And then I use the backs of his pages for scrap paper. That's what you see here. That's the answer that I write out every day. I'm up to 58 pages refuting his points, and I haven't started my own points. I made a list of them, of course, as they go through my mind. That's the way you should do that. You've got to jot the thoughts. And so I haven't even started my points already. It's up to 58 pages. I'm only allowed 70. And because they made a cross appeal, he gets to answer this. On all my other appeals, my appellant's reply brief was the final paper. There were no sir replies. But on this one, because he cross appealed, he's going to get a chance to answer this. And he's contained 35 pages to answer this. And he has to do it in 10 days. Now, Perry and Grafman, too, are going to file an opposition to Kalaji's respondent's brief. So I really don't know how to go about this, but I think that I'm going to read you some of it this week and then some of it next week, because it's going to be too much to read all in 1 week, and it'll take months on television to do that. So here we go. And I don't number the points yet because I don't know what they are. My points are going to come first. My points will be written after I finish refuting his points. And so we don't know what number point it is, so we just read them on. Regarding Kalaji's statement pursuant to CPLR 5531, there has been a change in the parties. Glendora moved the appellate division to drop Thomas Geiger from the action. This motion was granted March the 13th, 1995, Monday. Kalaji starts with the lies on his page 2. The pro se plaintiff made several legally insufficient attempts to serve the individual defense. That is a lie. The service was perfect, and he's been lying about that ever since. Glendora's service was brilliant. See the record on appeal, Franklin's affidavits, pages 189J, 189K, and 189L. Kalaji is a paid liar, a mercenary. That's really what he is. He's a mercenary. Kalaji was always within, whining about the service, manufacturing an escape, but it did not work. Franklin's service was perfect. Since defendants had no defense, CPLR 3211B, Kalaji had to try, quote, legally insufficient attempts to serve, unquote, because its defense was and still is legally insufficient. Kalaji's CPLR 5531 is woefully vacant. He has missed dozens of papers that should have been in his list. See Glendora's statement pursuant to CPLR 5531. The appellate division clerks told Glendora not to include any memorandum of law, that the other side would do it, but they did not. Point. The cross appeal is from the part of a decision and an order of the Honorable Donald Silverman, duly entered and filed in the office of the Clerk of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, July 28, 1994, which denied defendant's motion for summary judgment. He lost, and granted plaintiff's cross motion for summary judgment. That's wrong. They did not grant plaintiff's cross motion for summary judgment. They granted plaintiff's cross motion and awarded plaintiff injunctive relief. Granted plaintiff's cross motion for summary judgment was a great victory. A host of Park Avenue lawyers lost to one solitary sentinel pro se. Kalaji writes, plaintiff did not settle the transcript as required by CPLR 5525 and did not confer with defendants on joint preparation of a record on appeal. Glendora notes, this is picayune since defendants have no meritorious defense to delineate. Kalaji writes, instead she prepared a record on appeal which purports to be a full reproduced record. See plaintiff's statement pursuant to CPLR 5531 at paragraph 7. Glendora notes there is nothing wrong with her record on appeal. The county clerk's files are a mess. Kalaji writes, respondents appendix, defendants submit this respondent's appendix in order to put before the court those portions of the record necessary to permit the court to fully consider the issues. Dated March the 9th, 1995, New York, New York. Glendora notes, what he submits are not part of the record but are items not relevant to the case at bar and happen after the notice of appeal, and this court cannot consider anything after the notice of appeal. You see no name, you see no signature, you see no accountability. Nobody knows really who wrote this paper. Nobody knows. There isn't any declaration or fully familiar with the circumstances, facts. There is no declaration under penalty of perjury. He never does because he lies so much. Kalaji does not include decision he lost in the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. Cablevision violated Title 47 of the United States Code 531E, which is analogous to the state law 829.3, and abridged Glendora's freedom of speech and press. And we shareholders have to pay Record Press. You know, he didn't put this together. Record Press put it together, folks. I really even wonder if Kalaji wrote it. I wonder if Record Press didn't write it. Now, with that big law firm down there in Park Avenue, certainly they should be able to do the work themselves and not farm it out and make us shareholders pay for it. And we shareholders have to pay Record Press to put together his brief and appendix for him. This is no reason, there's no reason a 230 Park Avenue law firm cannot do its own work. Glendora does hers. A quick look at Kalaji's points is the expected. The court is right when it rules against Glendora, and the court is wrong when it rules for Glendora. He's paid to take either side, no conviction, no soul, just a check. Kalaji is always trying to gain points with judges on this personal lawsuit charge. Well, he never learns. Kalaji is always trying to win not on merits, but on reiterating Glendora's many, many lawsuits. These are Glendora's fights for rights. Glendora says, Kalaji is always getting out a laundry list of Glendora's fights for rights and hoping he can prejudice judges against Glendora. When will he ever learn that that does not work? He tried it with Silverman, he tried it with Bryant. Kalaji is always getting out, Glendora asked Judge Bryant on February 18, 1994, how much weight are you going to give to Kalaji's list of my other fights for rights? Judge Bryant said none whatsoever. Judge Bryant added, you can sue as many times as you think you have to. Judge Broderick was wrong in his statement that Glendora was bringing repetitive lawsuits. Everything in Judge Broderick's decision was wrong. Everything. He was a very sick man at the time and should have resigned. Glendora took him to the United States Supreme Court on February 28, 1995. 3 days later, Judge Broderick died. After cablecasting a few of the programs on his Long Island system, Cablevision decided to discontinue cablecasting plaintiff's program on this system. At last, I've taught Kalaji to say cablecast and not broadcast. Glendora says to this is chocolate-covered cyanide for Cablevision decided to censor Glendora's program, break a state law and a federal law, abridge Glendora's freedom of speech and press, commit 30 negligences, inflict emotional disturbance, and damage her reputation. Kalaji is supposed to be writing a counter-statement of fact. So far it has been speculation and non-fact as always. It is undisputed that plaintiff is not a resident of Long Island or either of Nassau or Suffolk counties. Glendora counters, it is undisputed that neither the state law nor the federal law says she has to be a resident to have a program on Cablevision in Long Island. Collegy and Fowler should study the law. Collegy says, in response to this decision, plaintiff initiated 3 separate lawsuits against Cablevision and various of its directors, officers, and employees, each of which attempted to allege a number of different theories to support adjunctive relief, returning her program to the Long Island system, and monetary damages. Plaintiff sought a total of $494 million in damages in the 3 lawsuits. Glendora sets the record straight again. There were no directors. There were no theories. They're all laws. They have to return Glendora's program to TV. That's all there is to it. It's a law. It is against the laws for a cable TV operator to exercise editorial control over public usage channel. Glendora has not got a cent yet. Collegy robbed her of a victory cost twice. Glendora wants you to know what type of person Collegy is, Park Avenue lawyer that he is. Collegy writes, the suits arose from the identical facts and were, in many respects, duplicative since they presented identical claims, and as a result, at this juncture, the cases present a formal procedural maze. All right, just let me set the record straight again, Collegy. 1. Lawsuit 1 was in federal court because Cablevision acted under color of state and deprived Glendora of her constitutional right to free speech and free speech. Title 47 in the U.S. Code, Section 1983. 2. Lawsuit 2 was in state courts because Kofalt, Dolan, Tata, Quinn, Bell, Lesgart, Randolph, Osnauer, and Cablevision Systems Corporation broke a New York state statute, New York Executive Law, Article 28, Section 829(3). 3. When Glendora moved Judge Bryant by Rule 60 Federal Rules of Civil Procedure to vacate his decision and reconsider, he ignored Cablevision's violating Title 47 of the United States Code 531E. So Glendora couldn't let a huge violation like that go. She had to file a 3rd lawsuit for this violation of 531E, and Judge Broderick's name came out of the wheel. And you know what 531E is. No cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public use of channel. 4. A formal procedural maze, quote unquote, was made by defendants, law-breaking, and College's paid lying and covering up. Collegy writes, since the decisions in the other 2 cases are inextricably intertwined with this action, they have significant bearing on the present posture of this case. Glendora sets the record straight. The first case, Judge Bryant dismissed. Glendora appealed his order before the United States Court of Appeals, 2nd Circuit, and won. Collegy lost. 2. The second one is your case. That's the one before the appellate division. You're being the panel who's taking care of this case. Who is it? Lawrence, Santucci, and who and who? The third one, Judge Broderick, really too sick to be on the bench, was a miscarriage of justice. Glendora appealed his order to the United States Court of Appeals, 2nd Circuit. Judges Mahoney, McLaughlin, and Haney incredibly let Dolan, Todd et al. Get away with breaking a United States law, 531E. No cable operator should exercise editorial control over public usage channel. Just as Judge Broderick had, so Glendora took all 4 of these judges to the United States Supreme Court February the 28th, 1995. Judge Broderick died 3 days later. It is a neat case for the United States Supreme Court, no dispute of facts, and Cablevision broke a federal law. It's a neat case for the United States Supreme Court. Collegy writes on his page 3, her various imaginative state law tort claims. He is supposed to be writing a counterstatement of facts. Is this a fact, or is it an opinion? Collegy writes, she has never alleged that she pursued any available administrative remedies prior to initiating these suits, nor do defendants have any information that she did so. Let me tell you something, Collegy. Glendora quotes Judge Minor to Mark Fowler for Cablevision at the oral argument on September 20th, 1994. That's your weakest point, counselor. It's a good thing you saved it until last. You know, this Mark Fowler was chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, and he works for Satterley Stevens now. And they sent him down there to the United States Court of Appeals to argue the case against Glendora, and he lost. It's a good thing Collegy left this anemic point to a footnote. What law says Glendora has to pursue administrative remedies before initiating a suit against their state and federal law breaking? Nobody at Cablevision would talk to Glendora. Nobody at Cablevision talked to Glendora before they committed their atrocious law breaking acts. You can see how Kalaji's case is to resort to such a point as this, but he doesn't care how bad his record looks as long as he gets paid. Here's another one showing the same. References to the record on appeal compiled by plaintiffs, which purports to be a full reproduced record, are denominated page records. Now, here's the third. Since plaintiffs did not settle the transcript, well, Glendora says a few pages of what Judge Silverman said at the July 14, 1994 conference can hardly be elevated to a transcript that has to be settled. You can see how desperate Kalaji is. Kalaji has had these minutes for which Glendora paid $60 for 8 months. If there was anything wrong with the record, he could have said so. He has used Glendora's $60 enough times free. Again, you can see how desperate Kalaji is, as he has been in all these cases, and the Gannett ones as well. And here's some more Kalaji desperation. Required by CPLR 5525 and did not confer with the defendants on preparation of a joint record, defendants have submitted a respondent's appendix in order to put before the court those portions of the record necessary to permit the court to fully consider the issues. Well, Glendora says this is a 10th record on appeal before the appellate division that she has compiled, and each one has been received just fine, and this one is no different from the first 9. Kalaji is desperate for a defense. Now, we have read 10 pages, and that means we're going to take a break, and we're going to have our jokes. Pat has a key job at General Foods. It's his job to lock up at night. And Joanne brags that she knows her job so well that she can do it backwards, and her supervisor confirms this. She usually does. And Ted said this morning that he was going jogging, but he got winded putting on his sneakers. And Gregory said that his doctor said that jogging could add years to his life, and Gregory says that's right. Now I feel 15 years older. And Annette says that she has the body of a 20-year-old, and her mother-in-law says, well, give it back, you're getting it wrinkled. For a chat with Glendora on program 1720, the next half hour of the program will deal with the reading of Glendora's reply brief to Cablevision Kalaji's respondent's brief. You see, the first thing that goes in is the record on appeal. You remember when I did that? That's all of the legal papers in the court. You know, this is a tough court, the appellate division. They make the plaintiff put together the record on appeal. All the other courts have the court clerk do it. The city court, the U.S. District Court, the U.S. Court of Appeals. And then this is my appellant's brief, and this is what Kalaji is supposed to be answering, but he isn't. And if he doesn't answer it, I win. And now I'm reading you his respondent's brief to that. And as I explained, now I'm reading you my reply brief to his respondent's brief. And then he gets a chance to write a reply brief to my reply brief. And that's the end. There will be no sir replies. That's the end. Then you sit back and wait for your oral argument. Keep the courage flaming. This is Chat with Glendora. To a chat with Glendora, and for this half hour we are going to deal with Cablevision law breaking, and lawsuit 2 is the case that was in the Supreme Court, New York State. I won that one, and but I didn't win any damages or costs, so I appealed that, and so that case is now in the appellate division. I have handed in my record on appeal, and I've handed in my appellant's brief. And then Cablevision Kalaji lawyer has submitted his respondent's brief, and I am refuting everything in that respondent's brief. And we were, on the last program, we read up to page 10, and so now we're going to read up to page 20, but first we're going to have our jokes. And the little boy said to Daddy, what's an example of minority rule? What's an example of minority rule? And Daddy said, having a baby in the house. And Peter said that, he says, before I was married, I had no children, and I had 3 theories on how to raise children. He says, now I'm married, I have 3 children, and no theories on how to raise children. And the Ed and Joan hurried home, and they apologized to the babysitter that they were late and they'd stayed out too long, and the babysitter says, that's okay, if I had kids like these, I'd stay out late too. And so now, Kalaji writes, entirety for failure to state a cause of action for violation of plaintiff's constitutional rights since the defendants are not state actors. Well, Glendora says he does not tell you that Judge Bryant's decision was vacated by the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit, and at this date of March the 20th, 1995, it all has to be done over. We are all back in Judge Bryant's court. Isn't Kalaji writing a counterstatement of facts, and how can these half-truths qualify? He does that, you know, he calls it a counterstatement of facts or a statement of facts. There's no facts in there. You know, he says things that are not facts. They're opinions and suppositions and assumptions. Kalaji says that Glendora versus Kofal, the action which is the subject of this appeal, plaintiff alleged violation of a provision of state cable law, New York Executive Law, Section 829.3, which precludes cable operators from prohibiting or limiting any public access program. Plaintiff also alleged violations of her right to freedom of expression and right to freedom of expression of press, as well as the identical state law torts claims alleged before Judge Bryant. Well, Glendora says Kalaji leaves out that he lost this one also. Twice a pro se beat this Park Avenue lawyer. It is not alleged, it is fact. Judge Silverman adjudicated that defendants did break New York State Executive Law, Article 28, Section 829.3, which is that a cable operator can't exercise editorial control over public use of channel. Kalaji also leaves out that Judge Silverman denied that Glendora's freedom of speech and press were infringed on the basis of collateral estoppel by Judge Bryant's order, but Judge Bryant's order was vacated by the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. The court must be getting the idea by now that it can't believe Kalaji's counterstatement. Kalaji writes, after filing these 2 lawsuits, plaintiff apparently learned of the existence of a federal statute, Title 47 of the United States Code 531E, which provides that cable operators may not exercise editorial control over public use of channel capacity pursuant to the federal cable law. Glendora asks how come defendants hadn't learned of such a law. Can you tell me that? How could Cablevision be that dumb? How come Kalaji had not learned of such a law? How come neither ever mentioned such a law from December the 6th, 1993, when Glendora filed her complaint, to February the 18th, 1994, when Judge Bryant incorrectly dismissed it? Here is an atrocious lie, worse than all the others so far. Since Judge Bryant, Kalaji writes, had already